Tax Day DASNY full board meeting. Sarah, could you give us a roll call, please? Tell us.
Yes, good morning. In our New York City office, we have with us our chair, Lisa Gomez, vice chair, Jerry Romsky, secretary, Beryl Snyder, and Elizabeth Velez. In the Albany office, we have Joan Sullivan, Adrian Swazerski, Christina Copeland, and Ken Evans. Joining us from Buffalo is Janice McKinney, and via Teams, Al Carney, and absent today is Kent Severud. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving right along, behind tab 1 is the election of the officers. Unless anybody has questions, I'd like a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Great.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. And I don't know, Jerry and Al can fight it out. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any? No. Any abstentions? No. Great. Motion carries. Thank you. Tab 2 are the minutes. Same drill. If anybody has any questions, concerns, or comments, please raise them. Otherwise, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Liz and Beryl. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Behind tab 3 is the audit committee report, which just had its a very fulsome presentation earlier. Excellent. Joan, would you give the readout of the audit committee report, please?
Sure. We had the audit committee meeting. We had a presentation for both internal controls and internal audit. And we went into executive session to talk further detail in terms of the audit plan. And we recommend, or we approve the audit plan and their budget going forward this year.
Good news. Okay. Anybody have any further questions? I think everybody was here for that. Jerry, Finance Committee?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We met a few minutes ago. We adopted the meeting minutes from the March meeting of Finance. We did advance to discuss the two offerings that are on the agenda for today. The Olean Public Library, which we recommend unanimously be approved. And then we also discussed the Wagner financing to purchase the old St. John's campus in Staten Island. And after some discussion and obtaining some additional information, we also recommend that that be approved at today's board meeting, unless anyone has any questions or concerns. That will conclude my report, Madam Chair, and thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. So presenting this transaction will be Steve Cozier and co-bond counsel Shannon Wagner of Hodgson Russ LLP and Natalia Pearson Farrar of Holly and Pearson Farrar LLP. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you. Good morning. The board is being asked to adopt documents for 31-year tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed and/or variable rate bonds in amount not to exceed $7.9 million for Olean Public Library. The library is a new DASNY client and was added to the DASNY statute in 2023. Bond proceeds will be used to construct additions, alterations, and improvements to the library building. Voters approved the $7.9 million referendum on June 26, 2025, which increases the annual tax levy in an amount sufficient to fund debt service on the bonds. The debt service fund will be funded through a lockbox mechanism, withholding the debt service from tax receipts ahead of bondholder payments. Bond insurance, although not required, may be utilized if economically advantageous. The bonds are expected to be rated A2 or better by Moody's. I'll now turn it over to Shannon and Natalia to provide an overview of the bond documents.
Thank you, Steve, and good morning to DASNY's board members and senior staff. The proposed Olean Public Library revenue bonds are being issued pursuant to the proposed bond resolution and series resolution. We are requesting that the board adopt the Olean Public Library revenue bond resolution, which will be a general resolution providing for the issuance from time to time of revenue bonds and other obligations of DASNY in an unlimited principal amount to finance or refinance costs of the project described by Steve, pay costs of issuance, and fund reserves. Proceeds of such obligations will be lent to the library pursuant to loan agreements. The bond resolution is a new resolution based on DASNY's current model resolution and constitutes the agreement between DASNY and the holders of the bonds issued under the bond resolution. The bond resolution contains the basic terms of that agreement, including the conditions for issuance of bonds, security for bonds, types of funds and accounts to be established for each series of bonds, events of default and remedies, as well as provisions regarding such other matters as amendments and defeasance of the bonds. The bond resolution does not establish a debt service reserve fund, but provides that one may be established if authorized by a series resolution. With that, I will now turn it over to Natalia to discuss the series resolution and certain documents that would be entered into in connection with the project.
Thank you, Shannon, and good morning, everyone. We are further requesting that the board adopt a series resolution under the bond resolution entitled Series Resolution 2026-1, authorizing up to $7,900,000 Olean Public Library revenue bonds, authorizing the issuance of bonds, which are referred to as the authorized bonds, to provide funds to finance the construction of additions, alterations, and improvements to the library building and pay cost of issuance. The authorized bonds may be issued as tax-exempt and/or taxable bonds, although it is expected that the authorized bonds will be issued as a single tax-exempt series bearing interest at a fixed rate. Roosevelt and Cross Incorporated will be the underwriter for the authorized bonds. The trustee for the authorized bonds will be selected by DASNY and the library. The authorized bonds will be special limited obligations of DASNY, payable solely out of the payments made by the library under the loan agreement on account of debt service on the authorized bonds, which are referred to as the revenues. Payment of the authorized bonds is separately secured by the pledge and assignment made by the bond resolution and series resolution of the revenues, DASNY's right to receive such revenues, the monies and investments held in the funds and accounts established by the resolutions, with certain exceptions, and the assignment by DASNY of the security interest in the pledge revenues, which Shannon will describe, granted by the library under the loan agreement. No debt service reserve fund is expected to be established for the authorized bonds. Additionally, the series resolution delegates to any DASNY authorized officer the power to determine, among other things, 1, the principal amount of authorized bonds to be issued, up to the authorized aggregate principal amount of $7,900,000. 2, the maturity date or dates, and principal amount of each maturity, provided that no authorized bond may mature later than 31 years from its date of issuance. 3, the interest rate or rates of the authorized bonds, provided that the true interest cost on any tax-exempt series may not exceed 7.5%, and the true interest cost for any taxable series may not exceed 10%. And 4, the redemption dates and prices and the redemption terms of the authorized bonds. The series resolution also authorized officers to 1, execute and deliver the loan agreement by and between DASNY and the library. 2, execute and deliver a bond purchase agreement by and among DASNY, the library, and the underwriter. 3, prepare and distribute a preliminary official statement and prepare, execute, and deliver a final official statement in connection with the sale of the authorized bonds. 4, execute an assignment agreement assigning DASNY's rights under the loan agreement to the trustee, subject to certain retained rights. 5, execute a tax pledge and collection agreement by and among the library, the school district, the trustee, and DASNY, providing for the payment by the school district to the trustee of library tax proceeds received to provide for annual debt service on the authorized bonds. 6, execute and/or approve any agreements necessary to effectuate the sale and issuance of the authorized bonds. And 7, do and cause to be done all things necessary or convenient in connection with the sale and issuance of the authorized bonds. With that, I will now turn it back over to Shannon to discuss a few more specifics relating to the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalia. As mentioned, DASNY and the library will execute the loan agreement in connection with the issuance of the authorized bonds. The loan agreement will require the library to make payments to the trustee in amounts and at times sufficient to make timely debt service payments on the authorized bonds. The loan agreement will also require the library to make payments sufficient to pay the fees, costs, and expenses of DASNY and the trustee with respect to the authorized bonds. The loan agreement and the obligations of the library to make payments under it are general obligations of the library. The tax referendum previously referenced authorized a recurring annual tax levy in an amount sufficient to repay the library's obligations under the loan agreement. The loan agreement will require the library to notify DASNY and the trustee of certain events that could affect the collection of adequate taxes to pay debt service and operating expenses. To secure its obligations to DASNY under the loan agreement, the library will grant DASNY a security interest in its pledged revenues, comprised of all public funds, all revenues received by the library from its operations, and all other income available to the library from any other source. Public funds consists of all monies apportioned or otherwise payable to the library by the state of New York or a political subdivision. To provide for the payment of debt service on the authorized bonds, the library, the school district, the trustee, and DASNY will enter into the tax pledge and collection agreement previously described. The loan agreement will permit the library to incur additional long-term indebtedness secured by a parity lien on certain pledged revenues, but not the public funds attributable to the tax referendum. Consistent with DASNY's financing guidelines, the loan agreement will contain the appropriate standard document provisions and may include additional security provisions based on market conditions and practices. The library's obligations under the loan agreement are not expected to be secured by a mortgage on or security interest in any other property of the library. The authorized bonds are proposed to be sold in a negotiated sale to Roosevelt and Cross Incorporated through the execution of the bond purchase agreement among DASNY, the library, and the underwriter. The bond purchase agreement contains the terms and conditions that are customary in the connection with the sale of DASNY's bonds. That concludes our presentation on the bond resolution and series resolution you are being asked to adopt with respect to the proposed Olean Public Library Revenue Bonds, Series 2026. As well as our review of the general structure of the authorized bonds and the financing terms and mechanics of the transaction. Natalia and I are happy to answer any questions that the board members may have.
For our brand new client, Olean Library, does anybody have any questions? Nope. Hearing none. Okay, great. Then may I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Beryl. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Motion carries. Thank you very much, team. This is exciting. Okay, moving on to tab 6, which is Wagner College single approval financing transaction for a non-client. We have Dave Ostrander and co-bond counsel Melissa Bennett of Barclay Damon and Patrick McGlashan from McGlashan Law Firm PC presenting this transaction.
Thank you. The board is being asked to adopt the necessary documents for a financing in an amount not to exceed $35 million, with a term not to exceed 6 years on behalf of Wagner College. Proceeds will be used to finance the costs associated with the acquisition of the former St. John's University Staten Island campus. The proposed issuance will be sold through a private placement to Invesco and Alliance Bernstein, both qualified institutional buyers. Security for the bonds, as required by the purchasers, will include a pledge of revenues, or property, and a debt service reserve fund. The additional details of this transaction were provided to the members at the Finance Committee. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Melissa and Patrick to discuss the documents.
Great. Thanks, Dave, and good morning, DASNY board members and staff. As further detailed in our letter to the board, before the board for your consideration is the adoption of a series resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $35 million of Wagner College revenue bonds under the Wagner College bond resolution adopted in January 2022 for the benefit of Wagner College. The general resolution authorizes the issuance of multiple series of bonds at one or more times and the adoption of series resolutions. It's based on DASNY's model resolution and constitutes the agreement between DASNY and the holders of the bonds issued under it, and contains the basic terms that apply to each series of bonds issued under it. The series resolution before the board today authorizes the issuance of up to $35 million aggregate principal amount of bonds in one or more series at one or more times, and delegates to authorized officers of DASNY the power, among others, to determine the final terms of the bonds subject to certain limitations described in our letter, and authorizes the entry into a loan agreement or agreements and other customary transaction documents. The bonds will be privately placed in accordance with DASNY's financing guidelines for independent institutions. The series resolution therefore contains restrictions on the ownership and transfer of the authorized bonds, including restricting ownership to qualified institutional buyers, or QUIBs, as defined in Rule 144A, promulgated under the Securities Act of 1933. The bonds will be special obligations of DASNY, payable solely from the revenues pledged to the bonds, which are primarily payments made under the applicable loan agreement, and the money and investments held in funds and accounts established with respect to the series of bonds. I'll now turn it over to Patrick to discuss the loan agreement.
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, everyone. The loan agreement will require Wagner College to make payments in amounts and at times sufficient to make timely payments on the bonds. The loan agreement will be assigned to the trustee with limited reservation of rights to DASNY, including those with respect to the preservation of the tax exempt status of the bonds, payment of DASNY's fees, and indemnification. As mentioned, consistent with the financing guidelines, specific security for the college's obligation under the loan agreement will be determined by the co-placement agents, the purchasers, and the college. In addition, the loan agreement is expected to contain certain financial covenants required by the purchasers. This concludes our prepared remarks. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the team?
Does the loan agreement make reference to the other properties that they're gonna sell, or that just sort of a implied?
You mean in terms of collateral?
Yeah.
Anyone answer that for Jerry?
Just a question, the answer doesn't really matter, but I'm just curious how they structure that.
Wants to know what's pledged for collateral.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer. In terms of the collateral, it's currently anticipated that there's going to be mortgages on a few different properties of Wagner. Again, final terms to be determined between the purchasers, the co-placement agents, and Wagner. And the documents will also reflect that bullet maturity in about 5 years.
Okay, any further questions?
Thank you.
Okay, so hearing none, we have a motion to approve. Thank you, Jerry. I'd like to just note also this was unanimously approved by the Finance Committee. Second, Liz, thank you. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Great, motion carries. Moving on to Robert and the President's report.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to begin the report by thanking our member Ken Siverud for his service to this board and certainly to the state. We're going to miss him sorely. I believe this is going to be his last official meeting as he moves on to take on new responsibilities for that rival school, University of Michigan.
So with the NCAA.
And he's certainly going to be riding a high in terms of the basketball program. So, but we'll miss him. He's been a tremendous presence for us, provides great insight on the higher education front for us. So we will certainly miss him, but wish him well in his future endeavor. Moving on, I will allow Kim to certainly provide more updates and information about our transition, but the D365 project, which we have been working on to move all of our financial systems over to has occurred. We are live, and they're currently working through some minor issues that come associated with that, but has really been a tremendously smooth transition, and thus far, going according to plan. Let's just leave it at that until we know we're out of any woods. I will not. We won't jinx ourselves, but her team has done a tremendous amount of work, keeping us close to schedule, moving the project along, making sure that they try to anticipate any issues that occur. So
all while doing their day jobs.
All while doing their day jobs, and I'm sure she'll remind us that we're almost in audit season again. So that is how it rolls. But I want to recognize Kim and her team for that work as well. Moving on to more regular business in terms of public finance. Last month, we announced the closing of $14.5 million in a transaction for the ARC New York. That supports 21 projects across 9 chapters, focusing on improvements to residential homes and day treatment facilities. They also provide housing, training, and support services for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. A reminder of who we do the work for when we're issuing bonds and their impact across the state. In terms of our large scale transaction, we mentioned that last month that we were pricing the transaction, the $2.1 billion personal income tax revenue bonds to support the state's capital programs. That transaction has since closed. We saw significant demand with almost $1 billion in retail orders and an additional $2.35 billion in institutional orders. That allowed us to upsize the offering and eliminate some of the Build America bonds that we wanted to refinance. So a very strong transaction in a challenging market. I want to also recognize that it was the first transaction led by an MWB underwriter in quite some time. Ramirez did a fantastic job ushering that transaction. So I think it's a feather in their cap and certainly one for us as well at DASNY. In terms of other related work, in terms of our BRICS events, we announced and were able to celebrate with some local leaders in Haverstraw to highlight their almost $7.4 million in BRICS investments that are going to support community centers in Rockland and Westchester counties. We also toured the Community Outreach Center in Muncie, one of the other BRICS grants recipients, and met with Rabbi Hirsch Horowitz and members of the local community to speak about how those grant programs will impact and benefit their centers, as well as the services that they're providing in Rockland. We continue to advance the governor's priorities in terms of the budget. We provided a roadshow for Feeding Westchester, a wonderful organization that we were able to, one, not just highlight our initiatives around affordability and certainly in terms of addressing food insecurity, and discuss the proposal for our New York Plates program, but we were also able to tour the facility. They are also a grantee and have been a grantee of DASNY in the past. So we continue to meet with the higher ed institutions. We began that at first with KICU, which is the Commission on Independent Colleges and Universities, and speaking at their annual meeting, discussing the questions and issues that are impacting higher ed, the ecosystem, and the importance of continued state investment in campus infrastructure, especially highlighting our HECAP program, which I'll mention a little bit more later. We have also been able to connect with NYU. We toured their facility. Folks will remember that a year ago, we did the largest higher education bond issuance for NYU for the purchasing of the 770 Broadway facility. We were able to see that will be a future center for engineering, science, and technology programs. We were able to connect with some of our other important partners and institutions, including Fordham University, where we visited their Green Job Center on East Fordham Road, and also meet with Sudi Adirondack and Monroe College to discuss the full range of services that we can offer, as well as partnering with them on future activities. With respect to grants, the current round of HECAP is currently completed. We received 34 eligible applications.
What's that again? Which one is that?
Yep, the Higher Education Capital Matching Grant Program, HECAP, which goes towards the private institutions. We received 34 applications totaling almost $45 million in terms of requests. We have up to $63 million available for this round, and awards are expected to be announced in the coming months when the HECAP board is scheduled. We also have our child care capital construction program. This is administered in partnership with OCFS. We received 197 applications requesting more than $400 million in funding, with up to $105 million available. So this program is significantly oversubscribed, part of the governor's child care initiatives. So we expect that those applications, which are currently being scored, will make announcements in the month of May. we'll be sharing additional updates on that. In terms of DASNY employee engagement, we had two lunch and learn sessions. One focusing on the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, which is part of the New York Public Library System. They are also a client of DASNY's in terms of our construction work and have been certainly a grantee in the past. So great to hear that the work that they're doing and show not just the community impact, but the role that DASNY has had in terms of them bringing a really world-class institution to Harlem and their continued growth and expansion. The second session focused on Women's History Month, but in particular offering perspectives on one of our projects, SUNY New Paltz and Lasting Hall project. SUNY New Paltz has been a significant partner. We've done a number of different residential halls for them. It was notable that in our last project, the entire leadership team for the project was completely women-led. So it was
That was the second part of the one that
that was the one that we
last
saw
year
with
or
the
whatever it
extra
was. Right.
floor on the building. Yep. So we took note and recognized that that was significant in its own right and worthy of recognition and discussion of those perspectives across the organization. We recognized folks for more than 40 employees who received significant career milestones during our annual service awards day. So I just want to recognize those folks again. So we continue to have an active and engaged workforce and that take on a number of different activities, and recognizing that on the volunteer front, so many members of the Albany community have participated and volunteered, not just at the food bank, which continues to be an important focus, but also at the South End's Children's Cafe in Albany, where we've had a number of different folks volunteer, and Molly Larkin and Lisa Paganin speaking with students about careers in construction. So it's great to hear about those activities that happen organically and that we're able to support in a variety of different ways. Media coverage is included in your materials, as well as state the seeker report and our monthly grant report. Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Great. As always, an action-packed month. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
No, just a congratulations to President Rodriguez for your appointment to the New York State Museum Visioning Task Force.
Thank you.
Task force, would you?
For the State Museum.
Take this.
Yep, as they look to
They're gonna expand that
reconsider
and
what they're
redo
gonna do and redo that. They've been a client of ours in the past. We hope they'll be a client of ours in the future. And as they think about that, we want to be able to add our value and remind them of their services and our abilities to be able to effectuate any plan they come up.
I'm sure you will do that admirably.
Well said.
Great, fantastic. Okay, turning over to tab 8, which is Public Finance Report. Portia, will you take us through?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Included in the members' materials are the standard public finance reports, brief market update, year-to-date new issuance volume for 2026 is approximately 148.3 billion. That's up slightly from last year's comparable volume of 142.9 billion. This week's primary issuance is anticipated to total approximately 13.5 billion. Municipal bond funds saw inflows last week of 866 million. Yesterday, AAA MMD yields were unchanged, with the 10-year remaining at 295 and the 30-year holding steady at 431. U.S. government bond yields were lower, with the 10-year Treasury yield decreasing by 4 basis points to 4.26 and the 30-year Treasury yield decreasing by 3 basis points to 4.87. Since the March 11th board meeting, the 1-year MMD rate has increased by 16 basis points, the 10-year has increased by 24 basis points, and the 30-year decreased by 2 basis points. During that same time period, the 10-year Treasury yield increased by 11 basis points, and the 30-year increased by 9 basis points. Also included in the members' materials are bond sales summaries, including performance metrics for 5 different transactions: American Academy of Dramatic Arts, Barnard, Boom Tioga BOCES, NYSARC, and the Orchard Park CCRC. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Portia?
Thank you again, Portia, though, for the Wagner College was a pretty complicated thing to put together.
Been interesting.
Hopefully it works. Okay,
Sounds like.
tab 9, the financial report, and Kim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Included in your materials is the standing monthly financial report, which details activity through February. As highlighted, personnel expenses continue to be ahead of projection as a result of hiring efforts. Non-personnel expenses are under projection, primarily related to lower expenses for computer services and equipment, office supplies and miscellaneous expense, and training. There were no private debt issuances closed for the month, so financing fees remain at 1.9 million year to date against a budget of 1.65 million. Percentage of direct hours charged to public clients remained at 95.8% for the month and slightly over the budgeted amount of 94.4%. And as Robert previously noted in his report, we are now officially live on our new ERP system. Significant undertaking, and it wouldn't have been possible without the dedication of our staff, led by Chad Puro, who guided the effort in close partnership with teams throughout the organization. More specifically, I just want to recognize publicly staff from Finance, Kelly Ray of Accounts Payable, Diane Topple of Accounting, Stan Reed of Treasury Services, and Dan France of Financial Reporting, as well as the IS team led by Paul Quigley, and folks from construction, Robin Martinez from Project Financial Admin, and Kristen Costello from purchasing. As with any new launch, we continue to work through remaining issues and refine our processes, but we are, however, prepared to make our first AP payment run tomorrow on April 16th. So staff has worked very hard to get us to this place, and I'm very proud and pleased with the efforts that they put forward.
Great. That's been a
yes, it's been a Herculean effort. Yeah. Yeah. Also, as Robert mentioned, we have concluded fiscal year, so we are beginning to prepare for our financial statement audit. So staff are continuing to work to book entries and perform related to the March activity. Thankfully, we don't have any new pronouncements to implement this year. However, they are working to familiarize themselves with the new financial system that went live. KPMG expects to begin their field work the second week of May. And then lastly, in your materials, also presented for your consideration is a resolution to update the list of employees authorized to approve and execute investment transactions in accordance with our investment policy and guidelines. This resolution is being updated to reflect the addition of one new employee who has recently joined our investments unit, and also to remove an employee who left DASNY for other employment. Unless there are any questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve that resolution.
Okay, that's great. Could we have a motion to approve Kim's resolution, please?
So moved.
Whatever you need.
Thank you, Beryl. Thank you, Jerry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Motion carries. Thank you very much. On to Steve Puro and the construction report.
Thank you. Some activities since our last meeting includes a couple of new projects added to our construction portfolio. Both of them are CUNY projects, one for the Grad Center and one for Mulcahy Honors College. They total about $15 million. In addition, we had two projects move onto our project report. They've exceeded the $5 million threshold. One for CUNY at Baruch College and an OPWDD project at Sunmount. Their total is approximately $12 million. We completed 4 projects, 3 for CUNY, 1 for Oasis. The CUNY projects were located at Brooklyn College, CCNY, and LaGuardia. The Oasis project was the Stutzman ATC. The 4 projects totaled about $55 million. There were no drop projects. As far as expenditures go, period ending March 24, $899 million, and the period ending March 25, $1.298 billion, a delta of $400 million. A couple of program and project updates at SUNY, the Binghamton New Design Build Dorm, site work, foundations, and utility work continues. The project schedule remains sound with a completion date of June 2027 targeted and still holding. At Cortland, the 200-bed design build project was finally awarded. Huber Brewer is our design builder. They have since gone out with bid documents for module components of the project. The target completion date for that project is May of 28. And the summer projects are well underway. Pre-construction activities continues. Students will be leaving in mid-May and the contractors will be following behind them. As far as CUNY goes, we met with the Vice Chancellor on April 2nd. The agenda included the 26-27 forecast of expenditures. We spent some time with the variances between DASNY's forecast and CUNY's forecast. We also conducted our CUNY coordination meeting that day. As far as some other highlights for CUNY, New York State DOB approved the CUNY 25-26 spending plan in February. Many DASNY managed projects that completed the pre-scoping and or design phase will be funded in advance in order to advance those projects into design or the construction phase. On the OPWDD and OMH fronts, the Capital District 500 car parking garage at CDPC is nearing completion. Site work, a bridge structure to connect the parking garage to the main campus building, and MEP finish work are well underway. This summer, we should be finishing up with that project. And the Mid-Hudson Psychiatric Hospital site work, foundation work, MEP rough-in, and building enclosure are all well underway. We do have a couple of issues down there, one associated with the site and another associated with the enclosure of the building. We're tackling those now and working with the stakeholders to find solutions. At the Western New York Children's Psych Center, construction activity in the existing facility continues. We also received a proposal for demo activities associated with the new addition. We're reviewing that from a cost perspective, and we will make a decision as to next steps on that proposal. And the DOH Life Sciences Lab, construction packages continue to be bid. Elevators, HVAC equipment, electrical, roofing, masonry, fireproofing, etc. are all bid packages that are on the street at this point. The good news is we continue to remain within the target price based on packages bid and pricing received to date. We did have a principals meeting on April 7th. The next is scheduled for May 5th. I was at the site on April 7th. Fair amount of site work, utility work, footings, foundations, and steel erection are all well underway. And just a couple of admin items. On the recruiting side, we have 25 open recruitments, 47 open positions. That includes the 15 summer interns. Most of those are hired and will be coming the next month or so. And with regard to PM Web, our phase 2 implementation team has targeted May 4th as a live date for the second phase of implementation. This is related to the design side of the equation. Most of what we've done has been on the construction side. These are design enhancements that replace existing legacy or third-party systems. So looking forward to that. And that concludes my report.
Great.
By the way, the format is very nice. The new format, construction report, easy, concise.
Better.
Thank you. Very nice. And Steve wasn't watching. Was watching the job. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say we are working on the few comments that we got back. They're not reflected in this month's report, but we're hoping to get them in there soon.
Let's clean
So thanks.
Digest. Did you? I guess it's not Steve then. Remember the Buffalo job, the senior housing job that we had to get the foundations in? That's all doing okay up there, or
Orchard Park.
yeah, right? Doing okay? It's on schedule.
I heard otherwise.
I guess it's probably not for Steve. It was like
Yeah, that'd be Portia. Might find out. make sure they're still good.
That's a Fox Run.
Yeah,
CCRC.
yeah, from CCRC, yeah, they were able to get the foundations in the fall and construction is in progress.
We helped them along significantly. So, thank you.
Great. There are no further questions for Steve. We'll turn it over to Jen and the general counsel report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two items today. The first relates to a use of a project labor agreement. Before the board today is a request to adopt a resolution authorizing DASNY to include a project labor agreement in the bidding documents for the construction of the Westchester County Raise the Age Youth Detention Facility in Valhalla. The project will consist of the construction of a new all-electric specialized youth detention facility, including an outdoor recreational yard, laundry, medical, kitchen, dining, and associated facilities, including staff locker rooms, security, sprinklers, and associated stormwater detention sanitary systems. The resolution would authorize execution of a memorandum of understanding between DASNY and the Building and Construction Trades Council of Westchester and Putnam Counties, New York, AFL-CIO. As required by the board's January 2012 policy on the use of PLAs, a PLA impact analysis and feasibility analysis was prepared, which showed that the inclusion of the requirement to sign a PLA in the contract or contracts for this project would result in cost savings because of the size, complexity, and duration of the project. The MOU and model PLA are reflective of the governor's policy of reducing the cost of state government, reducing the cost of government, and to increase opportunities for MWBE and SDVOB firms in state contracting. The MOU and model PLA have both been approved by the council, and each participating local union has executed the model PLA. Unless there are any questions, I request a motion to approve the resolution, which is found at pages 470 to 471 of the board materials, which would authorize use of the PLA for the Westchester County Raise the Age Youth Detention Facility.
Jenna, I have a question. This PLA, is it customized to this Westchester Youth Detention Facility, or is there a standard DASNY PLA language that's used?
There are standard language required by Labor Law 222, but the agreement is customized and is requires the signature of each of the associated unions.
Does it allow, do you know off the top of your head, for a carve out for certain value of construction dollar contracts that under certain amounts, companies can operate and not be a signatory to the union?
No, there's no the law doesn't allow for an exception. The law requires signature, and that's why, because it's a condition of the bid document that each of the unions signs onto it. So there should be no carve outs, and the law wouldn't allow it.
I'm sorry, on the side of a carve out for the contractors performing, not for the unions. For contractors performing, they can operate under the PLA and not be direct signatories to the union. Either an MWBE carve out or just a carve out. Many PLAs now say under $1 million, under 5 million. A contractor can work under the PLA but not be signatory to the union directly.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So I'm happy to look at that specific part of it, as I don't recall it off the top of my head, but I will look at that and certainly follow up.
It's a great way to get more competition and bidding on the work. So that's why I asked the question. Okay.
Okay. Will you research that and come back to us?
Sure.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. If there are no other questions, could we have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the use of a PLA for Westchester Raise the Age Facility Project? Motion. Somebody, anybody? Motion, please.
I'll move.
All right. Thank you, Beryl. Thank you.
And I'll second. Look.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Great. Motion carries. Now may I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of a particular third-party corporation and proposed pending or current litigation. Thank you, Jerry. Second from somebody, please.
Second.
Thank you, Janice. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Sarah, would you please send us to executive session? return to public session. The next board meeting is May 13th, and after that meeting, I am asked to make a plug for the Women in Construction panel hosted by Carrie and her team, featuring Liz, Janice, and me, who is actually a fake construction person. So there'll be a lunch and learn following that. So everybody, of course, is invited.
That's you.
Nice. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So we'll look forward to that. And if there is nothing further, we will adjourn and go to the subsidiary meetings. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Lisa, before we adjourn, just for the record, Jen, can you just, what the case was for
Yeah.
the litigation?
Yeah,
that
I
we
just
had that
wanted them-
executive session.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted the meeting minutes to reflect that while we're in executive session, I provided an update on the Cannabis Impact Coalition litigation. And the general update for the meeting minutes is simply that the appeal has been perfected and or arguments will be held in September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, wait, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you, Jerry and Liz, in whatever order someone desires. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, we are adjourned, and we will head directly in to the subsidiaries starting